Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel and thank you so much for joining me today. So today I'm going to be talking about using inquiry, particularly for secondary school students. So if you're interested in hearing about how we use inquiry for secondary school students, then please keep on watching. Okay, so I'm just going to make myself smaller, and I actually have this diagram that was published in my book in 2014. And what I've basically heard from a lot of secondary teachers is, oh yes, inquiry is fine for primary teachers, elementary teachers and students, but we can't really use inquiry because we can't just let students go off and find out about different mathematical concepts and the content that we need to cover. And so I just wanted to address to secondary teachers, how do we actually use inquiry? So I've got this diagram here where we look at different levels of inquiry, which is on a continuum. So if you can see here on this side, I've got the inquiry continuum where we might start off with very heavily structured inquiry, which means that there's a lot of prompts and scaffolding here for students. And it might be even a step-by-step guiding students to a particular theory or to the content that you want them to cover. Now, obviously, we want to aspire to more guided inquiry where there is less prompting, less scaffolding, and we want to give our students more ownership and agency over their learning. And then, of course, there is open inquiry where we really let students drive the learning and we let them generate questions and then they explore and pursue the different areas of interest based on their own generated questions. Now, I know that at high school level, grade 11 and 12, it is probably not realistic for us to be able to give our students open inquiries all the time. But there are opportunities, I think, throughout the 2 years or the 4 years of high school where we can allow our students pursue their interests. I know in the IB Diploma Mathematics program, there is a beautiful opportunity for open inquiry, which we call the personal exploration. And that's worth 20% of their overall grade. It's wonderful to nurture students' interests and to foster curiosity within them. Now, if we have a lot of content that we have to get through, because this is something that I hear teachers talking about quite a lot, then I suggest perhaps a more guided approach. But it really depends on your students and also on your comfort level of how you like to use inquiry. So perhaps if you're not used to using inquiry, then perhaps you want to start off with a very structured approach where you give students lots of questions, lots of prompts, but these questions lead them to the theories and the conceptual understandings that you want them to arrive at. If you're just starting to use inquiry with your students at high school level, I suggest for comfort and for confidence, why don't we start with the structured inquiry approach, which means that maybe you're going to be giving a lot of prompts, a lot of scaffolding, and posing a lot of questions to your students so that they feel more comfortable about the inquiry process as well. And then as students get used to that inquiry process and they gain confidence in their own ability and their own confidence in being able to explore concepts, then I think we can probably try to use a more guided inquiry approach where there is less scaffolding. I know that at high school, we still have a lot of content that we need to get through, but content and knowledge is actually a commodity. So it doesn't matter what the content is, it's how we actually engage our students' intellect with that content. What do our students do with that content? And that's where we come in with the different prompts and the different scaffolds. Once your students are really comfortable with being put in a situation where they have to explore and inquire, maybe then the teacher actually can step back and adjust, even during a lesson, the different levels of inquiry. So maybe some students will need more prompts and more scaffolds, but other students will need less prompting and less scaffolds. So as we become more experienced with the inquiry, we can start using that inquiry process continuum within a single lesson. But perhaps to start, it might be that all your activities are heavily structured so that you're trying to get your students accustomed to not being given the answers and used to being in that curious and exploratory phase. So I know that inquiry is probably a very controversial topic especially at high school. How do we actually employ inquiry-based learning in high school where there is a lot of content to be covered? I hope that you found this helpful in trying to introduce some inquiry into your classroom, especially at the high school level. And please don't forget to put a comment in the section below. And thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you see you next time.